In this video, we are going to go over how to graph a line when given a point and a slope. How do we do that? Well, if you recall from understanding slope, slope gives you the rise over run of a line. And even though that tells you the steepness of the line, it also tells you how the line moves, right? If we're forming other points on the line. Let's jump into this one and see how we can use slope and a point to graph a line. So we're told to graph the line that goes through the point 0, 3 and has a slope of -2/3. So before we can move anywhere with that slope of -2/3, which means that we rise, or fall in this case, down to -2 and run to the right 3, we need to have a location from which we can actually do that movement of down to right 3 from that slope. So we should always plot our point first, so we have a location from which we can move. And that makes sense. If I give you directions and tell you to make a right and then travel for about a mile and then make a left at a stoplight, if you don't know, and I don't know when I'm giving you directions, where you're starting from, how am I gonna know, or are you gonna know if my directions are good enough, right? So we need to have a location we start from. 0, 3 is that location. So I'm gonna plot 0, 3. So that's up 3 from the origin, 1, 2, 3. And I'll plot a big old point right there. So I'm at 0, 3. Now from here, what I need to do is I need to rise -2, or in other words, fall down -2 and run 3. Remember, that's what the slope symbolized with the letter M, which is very strange for slope, but that's what we use in math. That means run 3, go down -2. So from this point, I'll go down 1, 2, and then run 1, 2, 3, and that will give me a point on the graph. So the next point would be 3, 1. Now we can continue with this slope to form a more accurate line when we draw it by finding other points using the slope. So now I go down 1, 2, and run 1, 2, 3, again using slope to get there. And we can go backwards as well to get some points up here. So if I fell 2 and went over 3, that means to go backwards, I'd go up 2 and left 1, 2, 3. And that would create, just going backwards, of down to right 3. Now all we have left is to connect those points and do the best job that you can freehand if you don't have a ruler, which is what I'm doing. Not too shabby, and of course, put arrows at the end of the line symbolizing that the line goes on forever. All right, I'm going to show you one other problem like this on the other side of this video, just as a little bonus content, but this was to just get your feet wet with the idea of how to graph a line when given a point and a slope. A very cool usage of given a location and a movement of that line. See you on the other side of the video. And here we are on the other side of the video. We're going to go over one other problem where we are given a point and a slope that tells us how to move from that point. As I said in the beginning of the video, it is very important to understand that in order to use a slope, which tells us how a line moves, as well as its steepness visually, we need to know at least one point on the line. Otherwise, how do we know where we're moving with that slope description from, right? We need to have a basis to start with. So before we get to finding the line, I'm going to just plot one point that is on the line. So it says graph the line that goes through -4, -2 with a slope of 5. So I will plot out -4, -2. So that's going to be to the left 4 from the origin, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 1, 2. So I plot that point right there. Now from here, I'm going to use my slope. Now oftentimes people are a little miffed by the fact that they've got a slope that is just an integer with no denominator. So all I ask you to do is remember that slope is rise over run, and then if we just have m equaling the slope of 5, that technically we can write that as 5 over 1. And that then makes it very clear that it's a rise of 5 in the positive direction this time and a run of 1. And that is our movement, rise 5, run 1 from the location -4, -2. Sweet. So I'm going to rise 5, go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run 1. And then I'm going to put a point there. And I'm going to do that again to get a third point on this line. Rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, run 1. Beautiful. And we can go in the opposite direction as well to get maybe another point down here. So instead of rising 5 to go backwards, I would go down 5, left 1. That would be the reverse of going up 5, right 1. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and left 1. And there we go. Now, of course, the important part, which I'm terrible at, is trying to get as straight a line as possible. So I'm going to draw a line, connecting as many points as I can. Ooh, that is not the straightest line I've ever drawn, but hopefully it gives you the idea of how to connect those points. You can use a straight edge if you need to. The bottom line and the most important part is how we move from one point to the other. Find the location, use the slope to move with rise over run, and you will be a rock star with using slope given a point.